Friends, it is good to see you in Austin here. As Ellie told you, we're going to talk right now about how we're going to help you learn from and act on your data to drive profitable, efficient growth. Now, I am fortunate to get to speak to lots of people just like you in my role, and I love doing it. I started my career in sales. My dad sold for 40 years. Sales was dinner table talk in my family, so I kind of consider myself a coach's kid in some ways. When I have those conversations, as you heard from David earlier in the day, the tone has markedly shifted. We've gone from growth at all costs to needing to drive profitable, efficient growth. And what I'm hearing over and over again from sales leaders and RevOps leaders is what they really need today is a performance force multiplier for their team. Now, the way we get that is really by doing two things. We need to be able to quickly identify gaps as they're happening during the quarter, and you have to know exactly what action to take to prevent them from becoming bigger problems. But when I'm in these conversations, one of the things that I hear over and over again from the leaders that we talk to is they've got a lot of tools to tell them what happened at the end of the quarter. They've got CRM reports, business intelligence, revenue intelligence, and those things are all great. But when it comes to actually making things happen during the quarter, which is what you have to do if you're trying to maximize the return on your invested dollar and go to market today, they're not really sure where to start. And candidly, what they keep telling us is what they've got is leaving them in the dark. It's not giving them what they need. And so the question really is then, what's missing? And what we've heard over and over again is that thing that's missing is not the analytical ability to understand what happened after the quarter is over, but it's to identify things in real time when you can actually do something about it. Because that's the difference between a close rate of 15% and 30 or 35%. That's really what it's about right now. And so that's why we think the next thing for revenue, the thing that is going to help you deliver profitable, efficient growth is really the ability to identify in real time, not after the fact, not after the play is over, not after the quarter is done, in real time, what the issues are. And not just the ability to identify what the issues are, but to know exactly what to do about them and to drive consistent action across your team. And that, it turns out, is one of the hardest things to do in revenue. Like, we can all go rescue one deal or one call. And a lot of times, I will tell you when I sold, we would love to trade those stories. Man, you would have loved the way I asked this question. Or the buyer said this, and then I realized on the spot what they really needed was X, and I made this move, and then that's how we came together to realize we should partner. The problem isn't doing it once, it's doing it over and over again. And when you have lots of sellers, it's getting that scaled out across your entire team because that's what you're getting asked to do today. And that is very different. So we've talked a lot today about durable revenue growth. When you saw David up here earlier, he talked about the fact that the customer acquisition cost has gone from being ideally 18 months to, in some cases, 4 to 5 years. For many of the companies that I talk to, that has broken their revenue model. It has completely broken their revenue model. So when you get customers today, the way you get them matters. The way you sell to them is as important as the thing that you sell because you are creating either a customer for life or somebody that's going to be around about a year. And that second type of customer actually hurts your business, and it hurts you and your team. So consistent growth, durable revenue growth, customers that stay with you, that help you grow that business, it is about knowing what works, and it's about doing what works over and over and over again consistently. And that, at the end of the day, is what greatness is. It's consistently doing the right things. So that's why coming this fall, we are going to release next generation insights, and we're going to connect them in the workflow and rhythm. And now I want to explain exactly what that means. It's going to start with a new concept that we have that we call the command center. So this is purpose designed for our sales leaders, RevOps, enablement, and managers. This is where you're going to go and you're going to start your day. Now, what this does for you is this. It consolidates signals, activities, conversion rates, all in one place. You can see from first touch to close, at every step of your revenue funnel, how things are going and where problems are in real time. And you can do that across every segment of your business. Because we know for many of you, if you're like us, we have some customers that are smaller, and that sales process is very different than when we work with our largest customers. And so you have to be able to view those things differently, and that is the way that this is built. Now, by consolidating all of this in one place, we start to help you answer that question, which is, where do I start? You don't have to guess anymore because we are using purpose-built AI models. And here's the key. Most AI in our market is one size fits all. The simple truth is your businesses are not one size fits all. If you're in medical device, what makes sense for you is wildly different than if you are selling software to marketers. And so you need models that understand your business, not models that have been generalized across everyone's business. So these models are purpose-built to learn from you and your data and your business processes. And then they will provide tailored advice for each segment in your business. And the key word here is actionable. We're going to not just say, hey, this is something to pay attention to. Here's what we recommend that you do. Now, what I want to draw your attention to really quickly here is you'll notice on the screen we're highlighting an opportunity in the discovery phase. It's telling me we may have some deals that are perhaps a little long in the tooth. Now, in the old world, the way that this would be done, and this is when I was in sales, this is how we did it. We had a report in Salesforce, and it was kind of a blunt instrument. It was basically if something was in a given stage for more than 15 days longer than it was supposed to be, or 30 days, it would get flagged, whether it made sense to flag that deal or not. And so if you went and talked to our VP of sales, what they would tell you every month was that report had way too many deals on it. And then eventually people would ignore that report, which is the last thing that you want. We use purpose-built AI here to identify exactly the deals that actually do need your attention, and we give you a way to address them because we're going to connect this to action. So you'll notice here I'm drilling down into our discovery phase. When I drill down in here, I get more rich depth around what's working and what's not for this segment of my business in the discovery phase. It's got insights from conversations, insights from activities, insights about different types of stakeholders. We're flagging the exact deals that you might want to pay attention to for this segment of our business. And oh, by the way, if you want to act on them, we give you a way to programmatically add a play so that anytime from this day forward that you see a deal like this, we're going to recommend it to the manager for immediate review. Not every deal, like the blunt instrument stale deal reports that we all have and that I grew up with. The exact deals, the deals that matter. Now, this thing is going to be awesome. And if I stopped here, that would still be pretty great. This is a product keynote, y'all. It's a lot more fun if we demo. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. Make sure we're up here. Okay. So for this demo, I'm going to have a split personality. I'm going to be two people at once. Please be charitable and don't judge me personally for that. Now, we're going to start as Renee here from Revenue Operations. So I'm Renee now. This is where I'm going to start my day. I'm going to come into the command center. In this case, Renee is going to look just for this quarter across all of her groups. Just remember, we can look at any group, any segment of your business. We're going to ingest your sales stages. So imagine your sales stages here, not the ones we've got here just for demonstration purposes. And you'll notice from first touch to close, I can see my entire process. That's a really important thing because at the end of the day, the most important decision we make every day is how we spend our time. This is going to help you spend it well because you're going to know exactly where to go during your day to drive impact that day. And we're going to help you do it every single day. So you'll notice here in our prospecting phase, we're pulling out some opportunities here. We're showing you for each step in the process how you're pacing versus prior quarters. So now I've got a sense of context here. Hey, are we off? Is this something I should care about or is it not? And not only that, we're going to make recommendations. So we'll notice here we're talking about the opportunity to potentially convert more opportunities. I might have a pipeline problem. We're going to make a specific recommendation there. You'll also notice when we come down to our closing phase, we're walking through every single step of your process, and it's calling out, as I mentioned, some stalled deals here. And what I want to call your attention to is this. This is not your father or your mother's stalled deal report. This is tailored, it is built using AI. And what I want to call your attention to is if you look down here, we are telling you the reason we care about these deals is because they are 5.7 times more likely to be lost than won if you do not do something. And by the way, if you drill into the deals, we're going to tell you exactly why for each one of those. Now, in addition to that, we'll notice if I go into our propose phase, it's giving me another recommendation. So again, I don't have to look at every step of my process. It's just telling me these are the 3 things you might want to think about right now. So if I go into our propose phase, maybe I want to dig in here. You're going to notice that we get richer detail here, and it's holistic detail. I can see how deals progress through this stage over time, what our average progression rate is, our win rate. You'll notice things like how many stakeholders need to be on the deal by this phase. And by the way, we also have charts where you can drill down and you can see by what type. So do you need a procurement person at this point to convert? These are all important things that you can coach your sellers to do. You'll also notice we start to pull out things like which conversation topics matter at this particular stage of the deal. And that's critical because these are things you can action on. Now, if we go to the top here, you'll notice it's telling me I have an opportunity that for this particular segment of our business, and in this case, I'm looking at our mid-market segment. You can see that here at the top. I've got 23 different sellers who have a coaching opportunity. Now, if you talk to a lot of managers, what they'll tell you is they're very busy. I would tell you that the frontline management role is probably one of the toughest roles in your organization because they have to help on the front line, and we live and die on our front lines in sales. And they got to manage up. Their job is to connect strategy to execution on the street. They are constantly pulled in 100 different directions. And so often when they do coach, and coaching is important to them, it tends to be reactive or it's like one size fits all. And it's not what they want to do. They tell us that over and over again. How can you help me provide targeted coaching that is individualized to my sellers? This is how we're going to do it. So you'll notice here in this case, we're saying, hey, we've got 23 sellers across our team that have some challenges when a deal gets to this point with objections. We're recommending that you create a play for these sellers. So if I click through here, you'll notice I'm going to have an opportunity, and we're pulling in sellers that could benefit from coaching because it turns out they have an above average number of objections in this stage, and they don't convert as high as a result. So now I know exactly why I need to go meet with these individual sellers if I'm their manager. So if we come in here, I can make any changes I want. I can say, hey, when do I want this task created? If so, we'll navigate back to the top here. I'm going to add this play, and here's how we're going to connect it to action, and this is the key part. It is not enough to know that we have an issue that we want to address. We need to know the specific action, and we need a way to make sure it happens. Because when I talk to a lot of my RevOps and enablement professionals, this is what we were telling me, and it's one of the reasons we went to build this product. They would tell me that if they could find targeted insights like this, the process to getting them ingested in the business took too long to see impact. They said it basically looked like this. I would find something after hours and hours and hours of cobbling together reports across multiple data sources. Then I would call a meeting with our CRO. We would talk about it. If we thought it was a good idea to do something about it, then we would go meet with enablement. That is another meeting. We would get together with enablement. We would talk about how we might train our managers or our sellers to do something about it. Then we might have another meeting after that. After that was done, we would call a big meeting with all of our managers to talk about what we now want them to do with the sellers. Then the managers would then go and talk to the sellers, and then we would monitor and hope that they did it. And as a result, something that you might discover today may not start to get actioned on in the way that you want until 45 days later. And every one of those days is a lost opportunity in between the day that you found it and the day that you actioned on it. We're going to give you a way to action on it immediately. So if I go in here, here's how it's going to show up. Let's say I'm one of your managers now. I'm going to switch personalities. You'll notice at the top here as a manager, it's now suggesting these new actions that are targeted to the specific sellers on my team that need it. So if I mouse over this one here, I know why, because in this case for Jimmy, who happens to be one of the sellers on my team, he's got a lower than average win rate and a higher than average number of objections in his deals. Here is a recent deal where he had these types of objections and needs to be coached. All I have to do is click through here. You'll notice it takes us to these AI-powered scorecards. We've already provided a recommendation. The manager can change it if they want to. And now we're giving targeted coaching to the seller. It is targeting to exactly what they need. This is going to completely change the way teams operate. This is how you give your teams a performance force multiplier. And that is what this product is going to do. It's going to bridge insight to action to outcome in a way that no one has. And now is the time for it because this is the moment when you need it.